Hello, my friends. Today, despite talks of ending the war, Russia is pushing to seize as much territory as possible. Let's start with the situation on the border. Along with ongoing shelling, a US defense official has reported that North Korean troops have indeed joined battles against Ukrainian infantry in the Kursk region. No outcomes have been reported yet, but it appears that Russia might now rely on North Korean forces to reclaim their territory. Let's keep an eye on this. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians continue shelling, but overall the situation hasn't changed. They are conducting offensive actions only in Vovchansk, but things remain stable there as well. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces have temporarily reduced their activity, regrouping and pulling in reserves to continue their push toward encircling Kupiansk. Currently, clashes are reported only near Sinkivka, but no changes on the front line have occurred over the past day. In the Borova direction, the Russians are actively assaulting Zagryzove and trying to advance along the road and water barrier directly toward Borova. So far, they haven't achieved new gains, and the front line remains stable as of today. In the Crimea direction, the Russians are assaulting Terny and shelling the village, but as before, they have made no progress. Both Yampolivka and Terny remain under Ukrainian control with no retreat across the river. In the Siversk direction, fighting continues around Bilogorivka, but Russian forces have seen no new successes and the front line has held steady over the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, activity has also decreased for now. The Russians are conducting artillery preparation for future attacks as previous assaults were unsuccessful. Today, they are moving in reinforcements in preparation for new offensives. In the Toretsk direction, fighting over the city remains constant, with a significant amount of shelling recorded in frontline settlements. Otherwise, the Russians haven't launched new attacks, and there have been no changes along the front line over the past day. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are keeping up their intensity. They are actively assaulting the village of Promень, with clashes reported in the fields between Grodivka and Myrolubivka. Fighting over Lysivka continues and they are persistently advancing along the railway. However, they haven't achieved any notable progress in the past day. The most critical battles, however, are now concentrated in the Kurakhove direction. Here, the Russians aim to strengthen the front line to prepare for an encirclement of Pokrovsk. According to the Ukrainian armed forces, the situation is as follows. Without Kurakhove, Pokrovsk won't fall. The Russians fully understand this, which is why they're focusing their main efforts here. It's clear that the Russians are approaching this operation methodically and step by step. They want to clear the flanks before assaulting Pokrovsk itself. A lot hinges on Kurakhove. This is where the future of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd will be decided. As mentioned before, Kurakhove can hold out for a long time, but only if the flanks are secure and there is no risk of encirclement. Currently, I'd assess the possibility of battles for Kurakhove at 50 to 50. It could turn out like Solidove. Unfortunately, the Russians are now moving aggressively toward their highway, trying to create difficult conditions for the Ukrainian forces and force them to retreat by effectively forming a pocket. According to the Ukrainian forces, the Russians have already reached the outskirts of Sukhyali village and only 6.5 kilometers remain to Dachne. Which suggests that encirclement could soon start closing in. Overall, friends, another potential disaster may be unfolding with the front line at risk of collapse in this area. It's clear that from both the north and the south, the Russians are advancing on nearly every settlement. Over 70 attacks were recorded in the past day, making the situation extremely tense. In the direction of Velika Novosilka, Russian forces are assaulting Rozdolne. The Ukrainian forces continue to repel the attacks, but the situation remains challenging. While the front line hasn't shifted, every Russian breakthrough brings them closer to the Dnipropetrovsk region, where defensive lines are now being constructed in anticipation. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian forces are advancing toward the village of Bilohirya and attempting to launch offensives across the fields towards Orikhiv. Though they haven't achieved success, their intensifying activity is worsening the situation in this area. In the Kherson direction, Russian troops continue to shell the right bank and are attempting assaults on three different front sections, aiming to secure control over the islands and the Ray zone. Despite their efforts, they haven't made any gains, and the front line remains unchanged. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.